What's up, it's Jim from Technovault, and this is the only video you'll ever have to watch to create melodic techno rolling basses. I'll show you a bunch of secret tricks, techniques, and cool things that you can do in Serum and melodic techno basses that will completely take your rolling basses to like the next level and the professional level. Comment, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Open up Serum, and the first thing you want to do is go into like 125 BPM. First determine what is the key we're gonna work in. I don't think D works too good because it's very low. So I like to work in like the F to B range because then you get a really clean rolling bass. So what you want to do is zoom in and create a little bit of space between each note. Get this one here and we're going to loop this. So now we have this. First thing I'm doing now in the plugin is getting it on mono, legato, and open up the portamento time. Now I want to take down the octave to around this range because this is too low, this is and this is too high. -1. The second thing you want to do is take envelope 2 and then add this to the filter. So you open up the filter and you put this around, 70 because you want to start low and you kind of want to drag and drop envelope 2 onto the filter. And you don't want to have it open up too much because then you get this clicky bass. We want like a MIDI type bass, as you can hear. So the lower the cutoff, the lower the range, the tighter it gets, the more mellow. It's a fine balance, but you kind of want to go until this point. So you have the high mids, low mids until the bass, right? So you can change this envelope, but I think this is around good, like 400 milliseconds. Now you have like clicking sound in the saw wave. That's because we have a randomized phase. We take this down, we clean it up. So that's the thing you already want to do. Slightly improve this. You can go into envelope 1 and take this down as well, because this is the ADSR of the normal volume shape. Basically, if you do this, you get a really tight bass. You don't want it too tight, but you want to like make it a little bit more tidy, I guess. You can hear a difference. Now it's nice, plucky, but it's still powerful, You can add a little bit of resonance. And that's around it. Let me get into a little bit of processing and then we get into cool sound design. So add a bell curve, open that up, put a high Q and put this on like the sub. You can hear that it improves the bass. Then you want to get a compressor and you want to put that around like 25 because it makes it more snappy, milliseconds around attack on 30. This could be at 200 and a little bit of gain. That's it. Now we add one more thing, which is distortion. So you can go for vintage modes. So I think like soft clipping is fine. But you can also go for something like a sine shaper, which just adds a little bit of power. This is just the basics. One thing you can change is the filter. If we go into the filter, you have different modes. So if you take the simplest one, most simple one, you get a low 6, the steepness is reduced, which means you get a like looser melodic techno bass. You can do this as well. 18 and 24 goes into like the psytrance territory. So I really like to add it on 12, it's just perfect. The second thing you can do in terms of sound design is go into like different waveforms, and the saw wave is the best one. So you can change the waveform, obviously. So if we go into basic shapes and just see and watch a few good ones, like the sine wave doesn't work. This could work. If you do this, you need to add a little bit of hyperdimension. You could pull it off if you add a little bit more, like another filter. I'm using this EQ right here to create another low pass with automation. And in this case, you kind of made something that you don't hear all the time. It's square wave based, but I don't like that too much. So it's a little bit too tech house. Use the saw wave. So let's keep the saw wave and now we play with the unison. If you want a very vintage sound, you can pull up the unison a lot and keep the randomized phase at 0. As you can hear, it kind of adds this high pew, 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 pew on top of it. And look, this is the difference. Very wide, and you don't like that. So if you take down the randomize, and you add the detune, you get a wider sound, but it also sounds a little bit analog and like vintage. So you can put it anywhere between 4 and 16. pretty cool. Now, the hyper dimension adds a little bit of wideness, which you want on your bass. This is fine. You can also add the dimension, but don't overdo that. You could put it like this. So what I've seen in other videos is that people are like, yo, you don't want a stereoized bass, which is not true. Like, people are very hard on the fact that your randomized need to go down. And if you add unison, that kind of means that the stereoization goes away a little bit, like slightly. I'm not saying it's 100%, but you can definitely make your sub a little bit more wide. So if you're doing this, you can definitely add a chorus as well. A little bit of feed, the depth goes down. And as you can hear, it's going around your head, which is nice. But the only thing that you don't want to have is a stereoized sub. The bass can be stereoized. So to get out of Serum, I just add it to the mixer. And for anyone with Pro Q, you just load it up, create a brick wall like that, right click, stereo placement, side. And now you can put the sub on the side, so that the sub is mono. That's it. If you don't have FabFilter, open up Maximus, and in Maximus, go on every band, compressor off, compressor off, compressor off, compressor off. And now the lows get 100% merged. This knob is the stereo separation. So if we go into the bands, I can separate the sub, and I want this to go at like 100 Hertz. As you hear, you kind of also make the sub mono. So that's the solution. So now we have a very nice stereoized bass. We're playing with a little bit of sound design. Let's get into the next level. Oscillator B can be opened up and we can layer this. So if you do that, we need to add that B to the filter as well. And take down the randomize knob. And now it also sounds a little bit like a square wave because we're not using the same waveform. In this case, we are. And then it doesn't cancel each other out. So that's it. You can also turn down oscillator B and then FM modulate based on B. This helps if you want to keep like your sub levels, but also want to introduce a little bit of harmonics on the top end, which helps if you don't have a wide bass, like a bass with a lot of frequency spectrum, I guess. So really find a sweet spot. That's cool. You can hear like big difference. I dig it. It's a little bit more phasey and that's really cool. That's one sound design tip. What you can do is go into the noise, and in the noise you want to add something like an attack of a glass lid, for example. So let's disable everything. Something like this is pretty cool. Or guitar mute, because it adds a little bit of click to the sound, which is nice. So let's add that. You can choose to add this to the filter, but in case you do that, you do lose to the top end of this noise, so you don't really hear it. But I mean, it works. I think it adds something, so let's add this one as well. I think sound design wise, you can literally go into different wavetables, and that's about it what you want to do. And you can add slide movement by adding this like 2 bars and add this to the wavetable position. Don't do too much. That's pretty cool. You don't want to steer away too much from the saw wave. So let's stay into the saw wave and that's it. But you can change wavetables, add the FM, add the noise, and that's about it for sound design. The final thing that you can do is add a filter in here and go into the miscellaneous section and go into like reverb, all passes, or a comps filter. And if you do reverb, for example, you can play around with the mix, add this on off mode and on a bar, and you're going to add this to the mix. Just to spice up the rolling bass slightly, but not too much. Play with the filter, add some dimension, chorus, add wavetable changes, that's it. So the final thing I want to show you is macros. So some macros you want to assign are the cutoff. So in this case, we're going to open up. Because we're automating that in tunes a lot of times. I can't seem to type into this thing, so whatever. Then we have another macro which can go to the resonance. Because during the automation of the cutoff, you might want to open up the resonance as well, which is cool. So another thing you can do is change the FM from B, just to change up the sound slightly. You change the tone, and in case you have a different wavetable, for example this one, you can add another one for the wavetable. To get different tonalities. Just play around with it. You can also add, for example, this is the tone. You can add that to that reverb filter here and have the cutoff slightly change as well, which changes this effect. So. But it's very easy to go into a very complex sound and then completely change it, which kind of removes the melodic, simple techno vibe. You can download this patch for free on our website, so make sure to grab that alongside thousands of free techno sounds. If you want more techno producer content, leave a comment, subscribe for more, and hope to see you in the next video. Cheers!